Okay, I'll have to repeat a little bit. So we had seen this is entire portion of Adhyaropa Apavada, and the student or somebody might ask, why so much elaboration is needed? Why do we need to start with Ajnana discussion, Sukshma Sharira discussion, Stula Sharira discussion? So it is said the teacher has to come down to where the student is. What is the student thinking about himself right now? Before coming to Vedanta, before even doing some kind of satsang, our idea of ourselves is only titles. We don't even think ourselves as physical body to begin with. We think I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer, or some relation. I'm mother of so and so, father of so and so. But when we start doing some satsang, same Shastra comes and says, when you think about yourself, think about all these entities. You have relations because you have a physical body first. So Stula Sharira, it has to describe. Now, while describing, it is not just randomly giving some pointers. Very systematically, the teacher is coming down to Stula Sharira. And then he says, where does this Stula Sharira come from? Immediate cause, he says, is Pancha Mahabhuta. Food can be immediate cause. Go a little bit higher, you will find karma. Go a little bit higher, you will find Karana Avastha. Maya is there. From that only 5 elements have come. From 5 elements, Panchikaranam took place. But if you go even higher, you will find it is pure consciousness, from which Maya also derives its existence from. Like that, from Karya, I should be able to go to Karana. So for that, Stula Sharira description was there. Then he said, when you think about yourself, think about Sukshma Sharira also. All Jnanendriyas, Karmendriyas, Prana, and Antahkarana. All of that is part of Sukshma Sharira. That should also come to my mind when I think of Aham. Then I have a blueprint of all my personality, which is guiding me where I will go in this life and in future lives. That is this Karana Sharira or Ajnanam. Primordial ignorance which makes me think I am finite. In all of these things, there is reflection of consciousness called as Upahita Chaitanya. Make sure that you pay attention to Upahita Chaitanya also. And wherever there is Upahita Chaitanya, there is Anupahita Chaitanya, which is pure consciousness. So Adhyaropa is being done so that when we think about ourselves, Anupahita Chaitanya, Upahita Chaitanya, and all Upadhis together come to our mind. If this happens, then Adhyaropa is successful. If it does not happen, then I got stuck with some kind of Upadhi, some conditioning, and I missed the other two. Meaning what? After Adhyaropa, all 3 things should come to my mind together whenever I think of Aham. Even when I think of this creation, all 3 things should come together. You see the style in which Vedantasara is unfolding. Samashti Upadhi is described, Samashti Upahita Chaitanya is described, and then Anupahita Chaitanya is described. If this we are able to accomplish through our own mananam, through our own very careful study, then Mahavakya will work for us. What do we do in Mahavakya? Whatever conditioning is there, that is left behind, and the pure consciousness in that oneness is pointed out. So if Acharya says, Upanishad Rishi says, Tat Tvam Asi. Now his understanding of Tat is what? Anupahita, Upahita, and Upadhi. Samashti. Unconditioned consciousness, conditioned consciousness, and the conditioning at total level. When he says Tvam, what is his understanding of Tvam? All three things together. Anupahita, Upahita, and Upadi. When all three things are together, it is called as Vachyartha. Vachyartha. Vachyartha means literal meaning. For literal meaning, we have to come to this point. We have to come to this point that in literal meaning, we are including Upadi, Upahita Chaitanya, and Anupahita Chaitanya. So when I say Tvam, or when I understand Tvam, I should understand it as pure consciousness, reflected consciousness, and all these conditionings, Stula, Sukshma, Karana. Now when Tattvamasi Mahavakya is analyzed, when it has to be understood, then these conditionings are left behind. They are negated because only when you remove the conditionings, absolute oneness is possible. Now, how to analyze Mahavakya, Vedantasara elaborately describes it. But the main point was, only when we do this thorough inquiry will we know what to keep and what to let go of. In Tattvamasi Mahavakya, in Tvam, while understanding Tvam Pada, should I keep Stula Sharira or not? In Mahavakya understanding, it has to be negated. Although Tvam is included in Vachyartha, that Mahavakya is pointed out from Lakshartha. Lakshartha means the implied meaning. Vachyartha means direct meaning. We saw this point, 50th verse of Ajnana discussion. Towards the end was Turiya discussion. So Swamiji mentioned in one line. If you want, you can flip your page to 50th verse. These are some fundamentals. It is very helpful to keep repeating them so that it stays with us. Did you find 50th verse? Idam eva turiyam shuddha chaitanyam ajnanadi tad upahita chaitanyabhyam taptayaf pindavata aviviktam sat mahavakyasya vachyam. So turiya along with ajnana and all its conditioning and upahita chaitanya. So anupahita chaitanya, upahita chaitanya and upadi together is called as vachyartha. Mahavakyasya vachyam. Vachyam means vachyartha. Viviktam sat laksham iti cha uchyate. If you separate all of them, now it is getting mixed up. Before Mahavakya, everything appears mixed up. Anupahita Chaitanya, Upahita and Upadi, they are all mixed up like iron ball and fire. Two things are appearing as one. Like that over here, Avastu and Vastu are appearing as one. But once they are separated, what is being referred to is only pure consciousness. That is called as Lakshartha. But unless I do this Adhyaropa, I will not even know that there are three things included in Vachyartha. So Tattvamasi Mahavakya, Tvam will remain only at body level, not even reflected consciousness. And I will constantly struggle. How am I Brahman? How am I infinite? Because this body is inert. Body has beginning and end. So how am I immortal? So Adhyaropa part is to add consciousness and reflected consciousness in my understanding of Tvam and Tat. What is Tatpada? Tatpada is Samashti and Tvampada is Vyeshti. What in Vedantasara's language, in Mahavakya, if you see, Tatpada is Samashti, Tvampada is Vyeshti. Tattvamasi Mahavakya will help us appreciate that absolute oneness. Last point, why we are doing this so much of analysis is Adhyaropa. In and through that, Swamiji is also giving us a lot of sadhanas. In particular for reducing our raga dvesha. That Samashti Vyeshti discussion, the sole purpose is this. Wherever I see oneness, there I don't have a lot of conflicts. There I have more of acceptance. This point towards the end we had seen in the last session. 4 gulab jamuns, 4 people, but one of them ate 2. So mother was not left with anything. Now the child, if he wants, he'll say, you have the other one also. How did so much of acceptance come, large-heartedness come? Because she doesn't see any difference between herself and the child. So Jnani is the one who is able to see that oneness in entire creation. There is nobody who is different from him, and in others' happiness, he becomes happy. In others' success, he feels happy. Okay. Now, Jnani has accomplished that. For us as sadhakas, we should strive towards that. Right. In terms of expanding our aham, initially aham is only this body. Aham means I and mine alone. Family life is the first one where aham gets extended beyond this body. It goes beyond this one person, goes for whatever is our family. But sadhaka is pushing it even further. Pushing it even further, making sure that this aham is extended outside. Sometimes it happens that we are told that we'll be given something. Either it is, let us say, there is some kind of singing competition going on. Not singing competition, let us say just people are singing and I'm also supposed to sing. But the organizers come and tell me, oh, today we are running out of time. You don't sing. Somebody else has already been assigned to sing. Now, what is the thought for an ordinary person? You say, you told me I should be singing and now you are coming and telling me don't sing. You should have told me before. I would not have prepared. I would not have come here. But sadhaka's mind is, he says, I am expressing in that person also. Whether I sing or that person sings, I get the same joy. It is not that if I sing, I'm more happy. Other person sings, I'm less happy. Right? These are different aspects which we will have to reflect for ourselves. Otherwise, Vedantasara looks like a very technical text. It should connect with our life and open up few more things. Goswamiji says, unless we do this, Vedanta will appear like a fairy tale. Meaning what? Unless we extend our aham, do our sadhana, reduce our strong likes and dislikes, Vedanta will look like a fairy tale. Mamata ratasana jnana kahani. In Uttarakhand he says, Mamata rata, one who is so attached, for that person, jnana is kahani. Knowledge, part of it, it is like a, Raja Rani. Atma is there, and then another sadhaka is there who is going to find that Atma. You say, you are that sadhaka, you alone are Atma. But for us to travel that journey, we have to do this sadhana. Okay, so these were some more reflections on what are we doing over here. Okay. 104th verse, this was our tiffin box, the 14 words example. Let us see. Together we will chant. I'll chant it slowly. You can mark. Etebhyah panchikritebhyah bhutebhyah bhuhu bhuvah suvah mahah janah tapah satyam iti etat namakanam upari vidyamananam atala vitala sutala rasatala talatala mahatala patala namakanam adho vidyamananam lokanam brahmandasya tad antargata chaturvidha sthula shariranam tad uchitanam annapanadinam cha utpattir bhavati. From this Panchikruta Panchamahabhuta alone, Etebhyah Panchikritebhyah Bhutebhyah, all these 14 words, Sapta, the Chaturdasha Bhuvanani, all 14 words, they are created. Means raw material for all 14 worlds comes from this Panchamahabhuta only. But what was the meaning of Upari Upari Vidyamanana? 7 worlds are on the top, 7 worlds are below. But we saw that top and below is not in coordinates like that. Top is mainly with regards to freedom, with regards to Sukham, with regards to Jnanam. Sukham means happiness, quality of happiness, depth of happiness, absorption in that happiness, and effort needed to get that happiness. That is what decides how greater a loka is. And then Jnanam is clarity of Brahma Jnanam, but also transactional knowledge. Ignorance can never go with joy about anything. Even in day-to-day life we see, if I don't know how to drive, means I don't understand the signs, I don't understand what are those speed limits, where to take a right, where to stop, where to take a rolling light. If those things I don't know, it will not lead me to Sukham. Means although we use that phrase, right, ignorance is bliss. That is not true all the time. So wherever there is clear Jnanam, that Jnanam will give Sukham. So that is Upari Upari Vidyamana. In Bhagavatam, there are different types of pralayas which are mentioned. One pralaya is called as Naimittika Pralaya. Naimittika Pralaya, in which Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, these 3 lokas are dissolved. Only these 3 lokas. Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha. This is when Brahmaji completes 1 day. Brahmaji completes 1 day. When Brahmaji goes to sleep, pralaya happens. And that pralaya is Naimittika Pralaya, where only Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha are destroyed, dissolved. If it was tiffin layer structure, what will happen to the other lokas? They'll collapse down. So it is not in that sense. It is mainly from these 3 standpoints. First is freedom, Swatantriyam, Sukham, and Jnanam. Now let us reflect a little bit about the types of sharira which is there in all these lokas. What is the constituent of sharira in Bhuloka? 5 Panchamahabhutas. And here Swamiji says, with the same Panchamahabhutas, sharira of other lokas are also made. Meaning what? Whatever problems are here, same problems are there also. Right? Little bit less problems, but it is there for sure. They have Ashwini Kumaras, right, who are the doctors. And they have some or the other thing which they'll have to treat. Otherwise, why do you need doctor? If nobody would fall sick, then you don't need a doctor there. But another thing is, sometimes we have this question, what is Devata Sharira made up of? So answer for that is here. In several stories in Puranas, we see Devatas flying. And Devatas, it is said they stand above the ground. They don't touch the ground, they stand above the ground. There is one story, I'm blanking in what context, where Devata takes a human form and stands along with all other kings in one place. But this queen comes and then she sees one king who is standing above the ground. So she recognizes him that you are a Devata, you are not a king. So Devatas, they stand above the ground. And it is said their constituent of the body is more fire element and air element. That is why they say when Devata comes, there is light. Because there is Teja, fire element is predominant, and air element. Ours is more water and earth. 70% water, majority otherwise is earth element. Fire element only that much to keep our body temperature. So with that, all other siddhis are possible. Flying and all those things. These are mentioned in Patanjali Yoga Sutras. If somebody can control elements, they will get lot of siddhis related to that element. So whatever is said in Shastra, we should find the perspectives over here. How can Devata fly? You say he can fly because their body constitution is different. More air and more fire element. But in terms of minds, it is said, whichever mind is there in Bhuloka, the same type of mind can be there even in other lokas. Meaning what? Even though they are living in that loka, it is not necessary that all the negativities and things which bother, they have gone away. Who is the example for this? Daksha Prajapati. He became the Prajapati. Means he is like, the managing director of entire creation. But still he has this, revengeful attitude towards Lord Shiva. In spite of getting all these things, that manas santapa, agitation of the mind, has not gone away. So many examples are there. You take either Daksha Prajapati or Indra also in several other places. He has everything, but he wants something from this Bhuloka. He takes a other form, comes down, does something. So there, Goswamiji several places, the devatas are always like this. That contentment has not come, mind is always disturbed. Pride can also be there, like Jaya Vijaya. They were right in Vaikuntha Loka, Dwarpalas of Bhagwan. But this pride was there. If anybody has to meet Bhagwan, they have to take our permission. So these are some indicators to say what? That loka description is not to say that sadhaka should strive to go there. Loka description is just to appreciate that there are lokas like this, and I should get vairagya from all these things. What is said in Tattva Bodha for vairagya? Iha amutra phalabhoga viragaha. Iha means in this world, amutra means in other worlds. But that amutra, unless we know what it is, we will not be able to appreciate also. So little bit of description is given of other lokas so that we can know what we should let go of. Okay, so people might say, we never held on to them. We never held on to this idea that I want to go to Swarga, I want to go to Vaikuntha. Then where is the question of letting go of it? So there it is said, even if we don't have desire to go to Swarga Loka, we have desire to create Swarga over here and then go to that Loka. Same things, more freedom. Nobody should ask me questions. Where I'm staying, where I'm going, no questions. More sukham. Effortlessly, I should be able to get whatever I want. And more jnanam also. More knowledge I have about worldly things, more happy I am. We saw in Kenopanishad class in the last Saturday, Bhagwan Shankaracharya says, no matter how much we hold on to things, those things can't take away the fear of death. It cannot take away the fear of death. We need some other knowledge which will really make us fearless. So this is where our Taponji Maharaj's line we should remember. When he was, said that let us take you to Delhi for treatment. Taponji Maharaj's only one line was, don't people die in Delhi? Means mrityu is there everywhere. Where are we going to go and save ourselves? So best thing is get the right perspective and abide in our own self, which is devoid of janma, devoid of mrityu. That is the whole purpose. If we come to that point, purpose of this discussion is fulfilled. Okay. Upari vidyamananam, then adho vidyamananam, lokanam brahmandasya tad antargata chaturvida stula sharirani tad uchita annam tad uchitanam annapanadinam cha utpattihi bhavati. This point also we saw. For every loka, Bhagwan has given uchita annapana. What is the appropriate bhoga for that loka that has been given to that. Means, we should not think anything is out of place in Bhagwan's creation. Means if you look at some animal doing bhoga of something, in the animal's eye, that bhoga is sukham. This is what Prahlad felt. He said, human beings over here, they are so disturbed, they are so agitated, they are so unhappy. Let me take all of them to Vaikuntha. So Bhagwan says, you go and ask them, do they want to come to Vaikuntha? And every place he goes, they say, Prahlad ji, we really love you, but right now we are okay where we are. You go to Vaikuntha, we will not come. Then he finds a pig, which was eating the filth over there. So he says, finally, at least let me go and save this pig. It is eating that filth. He goes and asks the pig, do you want to come to Vaikuntha? My Bhagwan has come, he's waiting. So the pig tells him, will I have this filth over there in Vaikuntha? He says, why do you need this over there? He says, then I don't want to come. I'm happy over here, you go to Vaikuntha. He gets Vairagya right then and there. He says, Bhagwan, come, let us go. Wherever they are happy. Meaning what? Uchita Annapana is given to everybody. For that animal, that, filth is bhoga. It is source of sukham for it. Okay. So Bhagwan's creation, sthane rishikesha tava prakirtya. Arjuna says this after seeing all Vishwarupa. And Bhagwan, everything in this creation is in the right place. In the creation outside, in my life also. Sthane rishikesha tava prakirtya. Now, you look at the chintanam, the ability to finely analyze of our rishis. How many species are there in this world? It is at around 8.7 million. 8.7 million species. National Geographic. That's where I got this data. Now our rishis said, how will you analyze 8.7 million species? All these are Stula shariras. They said we can classify them in only 4 categories. And when they classify, you cannot find a 5th one. 4 categories, they classified 8.7 million species. And through that, you can analyze each one better. They were not just, fond of classifying. When you classify things, you can appreciate, pay attention better. Like how we classified Karana Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Sthula Sharira. Now you could have said all of that is Sharira only. Right? Because everything is changing. Shiryamanatvat Shariram. So no, when you classify, you can pay attention. So you see how they have classified all these things in just 4 categories. 4 types of human forms. Not human forms, 4 types of jivas. Okay. 105 onwards. Chaturvidha sharirani tu jarayuja andaja swedaja udbijjhakyani. This is andaja also. You can say jarayuja andaja. We'll continue. Jarayujani jarayubhyo jatani manushya pashwadini andajani andebhyo jatani pakshipannagadini swedajani swedebhyo jatani yuka mashakadini udbhijjani bhumim udbhidya jatani lata vrukshadini. What are the 4 types of shariras? He says first one is Jarayuja, born from the womb. whichever species is born from the womb, that is called as Jarayuja. Second is Andaja, born from hatching an egg. Born from hatching an egg, that is Andaja. Third is Svedaja. Svedaja means sweat, born from sweat. But it's not only sweat, it is any kind of moisture. Not only sweat, any kind of moisture, that is Svedaja. Fourth one is Udbhija, born from sprouting the earth. Born from sprouting the earth, that is Udbhija. He says that's good enough. You see 8.7 million species, classify them in 4 categories. Look at the Chintana Samarthya, ability to analyze. Now this is there in Chandogya Upanishad. We saw in Chandogya 6th chapter, only 3 are mentioned. Svedaja is not mentioned. Jarayuja, Andaja and Udbhija. Only 3 are mentioned. Now more elaboration. What is Jarayuja? Jarayuja, Jarayubhyo Jatani Manushya Pashvadini, which is born from a womb. That is called as Jarayuja. Those species, Manushya and Pashus, human beings and animals. They are called as Jarayuja. Then comes Andaja. Andajani Andebhyo Jatani Pakshi Pannagadini. Pakshi Pannagadini means all the birds and reptiles that are born by hatching an egg. That is Andaja. Third one is Svedaja, 108th verse. Svedajani Svedebhyo Jatani Yuka Mashakadini. Yuka means lice, which is there in the hair sometimes. Lice or any other, germ which is there. And Mashakadini is mosquitoes. Mosquitoes or any other, being which is born from moisture. Right. All of these are called as Svedaja. Fourth one is Udbhija. Udbhija means that which is born by sprouting the earth. Bhumim Udbhidya Jatani Lata Vrukshadini. All trees and creepers, they are called as Udbhija. And they are very tiny looking seeds, but their power is so much, it can break the earth and come up. In some songs they say, all bhajans, they are sometimes praising the beauty of creation, wonder of creation. Whichever Mahatma saw in whichever place, that they would praise. One song it is said, who is the one who puts the strength in that seed to break this earth? That is my Bhagwan. So tiny looking seed, it can break the earth and come up. And once the roots have come, those tiny looking roots, they can hold the earth so strongly that the plant cannot move. So that is this strength which is there in those tiny little things. So Udbhija is breaking the earth and coming up. Now, what is another thing over here? Whenever we look around, whenever we are driving or walking, it is good to appreciate how many jivas are there along with me. Whenever we look at plants, this thought should come that this plant is a jiva. It could have been a human being before. It could have been some other creature before. In this birth, it has become a plant. Or any other creature that we see, since all of them are jivas. In one of the camps that we had done, I had asked one of the chick helper was there. I had asked him to present on whatever things you really do as your hobby. So everyone had a hobby. I said, reflect on your hobby and derive some meaningful messages from them. So I remember this one boy, he was into hiking. He was into hiking and he spoke very nicely about what are the reflections he learned from hiking. He said, I learned one step at a time. When you're hiking, don't get overwhelmed by your goal. Just take one step at a time. So like this, he had several reflections. One reflection was, he said when he slept in a tent in that place up in the hills, he saw so many other creatures along with him. There were raccoons that were there, and all other, of course, in mountains, so many things are there. He said, for the first time I realized that we both are sharing the same place. We are not entitled or we are not privileged because I have a home of my own. It was all belonging to us together. So I should make sure that we live in harmony. I said, very nice, what you learned from that thing. Because in that tent, he said, these other things, other creatures, they were there. They were looking at me as a foreigner. Generally, we look at them as somebody who is coming into our house. But there, for the first time, he was feeling that they were feeling that I am intruding into their space. So we were living so happily here. Why did you put your tent over here? But that is just one thing to appreciate, that everything is a jiva. All these are life forms. Amongst that, we have gotten a human body. Okay. 110th. Atrapi chaturvidha sakala sthula shariram eka aneka buddhi vishayataya vanavajjalashaya vadva samashtihi vrukshavad jalavadva vyeshtihi api bhavati atra api. Here also means just like you had discussed in karana and sukshma, in sthula also atra api chaturvida sakala sthula shariram eka aneka buddhi vishayataya. All these 14 worlds which are there, or sthula sharira that we spoke about, it can be looked at from Samashti standpoint or from Vyeshti standpoint. Eka buddhi vishayataya, eka aneka buddhi vishayataya, vanavad jalashaya vatvat. Same example is saying, like the forest and the lake. If you pay attention to the forest, or if you shift attention from a single tree, what you will see is forest. If you shift attention from a particular drop, what you will see is lake. This in the same way, the sthula sharira that is there. If I shift attention from my physical body, what I will realize or recognize is there is only totality. And sthula sharira, to do this understanding is relatively easier. Although it is not, because attachment to physical body is so much, it is not easy. But still, even if we logically think that this body is also made up of 5 elements, calcium, carbon, phosphorus, Gurudev would say. And this entire creation outside is also made from the same 5 elements. But because I have Aham buddhi over here, I think I am this body, and I have so much of attachment over here that I make creation separate and myself separate from it. Although entire nourishment for this body comes from creation only. So in Taittiriya Upanishad, this is the main sadhana. When Annamaya Kosha is described, it is said, dissolve your individual Annamaya in total Annamaya. What will happen? Whatever strong attachment is there for this body, that should go down. And if I'm able to dissolve it into elements, then some vairagya should also come. All of that is only Panchamahabhuta. Why so much of over importance given to physical body? Okay. Vyeshti api bhavati. Or if we are paying attention to just individual elements, then it will be called as individual sthula sharira, then it will be called as Vyeshti. That also one can look at. Now, if you look at Samashti, what is Samashti Upahita Chaitanya now, that is mentioned in 111th verse. Etat Samashti Upahitam Chaitanyam, Etat Samashti Upahitam Chaitanyam, Vaishvaanara, Vaishvaanara, Virat iti uchyate, Virat iti uchyate, Sarva Nara Abhimanitvat, Sarva Nara Abhimanitvat, Vividham Rajamanatvacha, Vividham Rajamanatvacha. Etat Samashti Upahitam Chaitanya. If you take this gross body as Samashti, totality, then the conditioned consciousness which is getting conditioned by total Stula sharira. We had seen this part for Karana sharira, it is called Ishvara. For Sukshma sharira, Samashti Upahita Chaitanyam is called Hiranyagarbha or Sutratma or Prana. Tejas is Vyeshti. Sutratma, Hiranyagarbha or Prana. For Stula sharira, this Samashti Upahita Chaitanya is called as Vaishvaanara. One name of Samashti is Vaishvaanara. Another name is Virat. These are the names of conditioned consciousness. Same Shuddha Chaitanya, when it is conditioned by one Upadhi, the conditioned consciousness gets the name of Virat. And this Virat Purusha alone, we worship in Purusha Suktam. Sahasra Shirsha Purusha, Sahasrakshas Sahasrapat. Now, Sahasra doesn't mean 1,000. Sahasra literally means 1,000. This is Sahasra Shirsha Purusha, 1,000 heads. Sahasraksha, 1,000 eyes. Means Bhagwan has only one eye. Right? If you literally take the meaning, 1,000 heads should have 2,000 eyes. So you cannot take 1,000 as literal meaning. 1,000 means whichever heads are there in this creation, all of that is part of Virat only. And in Bhagavatam it is said, the seed of all avatara, is Virat Purusha. Same Chaitanya with conditioning became this creation. Now in this creation, Bhagwan is not that weak that he cannot appear in one part of creation. He has appeared as entire creation. Why can't he appear in specific name and form? And that specific name and form can be infinite. It could be as Bhagwan Krishna, it could be as Bhagwan Rama, Narsimha Avatara. So many avatars can take place. But the seed of all of that is Virat Purusha. Now, reason is given. Why is he called Vaishvaanara? Sarva Nara Abhimanitvat. If you want to understand this word, look at Vyeshti first. It is easier to appreciate. This human body has so many parts, right? There is finger, there is hand, palm is there, shoulder, legs, head. Is there any part of this body which I don't consider as mine? My Aham buddhi is there in each and every part of this human body. So much so that even when we have to honor somebody or we have to greet somebody, we just shake their hand. But we are not greeting only the hand, right? We are greeting the entire person. So there it is said, imagine if the same thing can happen with entire creation. Just like I have Aham buddhi in, Nakashika, from the toenail to the shikha, to the head. I have Aham buddhi. In that way, somebody having Aham buddhi in this entire creation. This part we had seen in Bhagavatam session. Somebody whose entire personality is of doing punya, that person is called as punyatma. His entire mahatva buddhi, his heart is in doing punya, he is called as punyatma. If somebody has strong attachment with physical body, thinks body alone to be me, like this example, from toenail to the head, he says all part is me alone. That person is called as Deha Atma. Atma means what is his inherent nature, inherent personality. Where does he have Aham Buddhi in? First person had Aham Buddhi in Punya. He said Punya means that is what I am. He is called as Punyatma. This person is called as Dehatma. You just have to add Atma word after that. Very simple. Now what will somebody who has Aham Buddhi in creation called as? Creation is called as Jagat. You just have to add Atma after that. Punya plus Atma, Deha plus Atma, Jagat plus Atma. In Jagadatma. One of the name of Bhagwan is Jagadatma. Meaning what? One who has Aham in entire creation. No, nothing of this creation is different from Bhagwan. Okay. If you are able to think in this way, then entire creation becomes divine. And that Bhagwan is whom I worship every day. Right? In one form, in one place, my same Bhagwan is appearing as entire creation. This is the secret of murthy puja also. Murthy puja, when we do, it is with this understanding that there is totality which is Virat. And there is consciousness expressing in that totality. Virata Purusha is there. Now I cannot worship totality directly. And because every part of creation is part of Virat only, I can take a particular form as my altar of worship. So in temples we have one Vigraha, one Murthy. Right? But the understanding is, through this Vigraha, I am worshipping Virat Purusha. Just like in this physical body, right? If some Mahatma is there, and Gurudev's Pada Puja they would do, right? So they would apply that Chandanam on his toenail. Now that doesn't mean we are doing only puja of that nail, right? It reaches the entire person. Why? Because there is abheda. There is no difference between toenail and the person. In the same way, between Vigraha of Bhagwan and Virat Purusha, there is no difference. If we have the clear understanding that Virat Purusha is creation and I can only worship one name and form. This is what Raman Maharshi also said, Jagata Ishadhi Yukta Sevanam, Ashtamurti Bhrut Deva Pujanam. Nobody can worship entire Jagat. Jagat is infinite. Where will I go helping everybody in Jagat, serving entire Jagat? So Bhagwan has made sure that a part of Jagat is given to us to serve. We cannot serve everybody. We said, I'll give you a smaller sample, which you call as family, social circle, whatever is there. Work-wise also, entire creation I cannot serve, but within that creation I've been given a field to serve. So that while serving, I should have Ishadhi Yukta. That is an important line. Ishadhi Yukta Sevanam. I should serve with this understanding that this thing is nothing but my Bhagwan only. Or you say, this whatever I am serving is part of my Bhagwan. If that happens, then Karma Yoga begins. Jagata Ishadhi Yukta Sevanam. And also, we have this tendency to see this entire creation as Jada. Right? We see entire creation as Jada. But after studying Vedanta, we should recognize this point that in and through this Jada, there is a Upahita Chaitanya, which is my Bhagwan. This point, Hiranyakashipu did not appreciate. He said, where is your Bhagwan? If he is there, then is he there in this pillar also? Meaning what? Jagat is Jada. And your Bhagwan is, sentient entity. Is he there in this pillar also? So then Bhagwan comes and fulfills the Pratijna. He says entire creation is Chinmaya. It is originating from consciousness, it is not inert. At least we should come from Upadhi to Upahita Chaitanya, conditioned consciousness, even if we don't go to unconditioned. This human body, physical body that we have, is it inert or sentient? Body is inert. Body by itself is inert. In and through that body, there is a reflected consciousness. Deha Chetanatam Agat. Drigdrisha Viveka. Vedantasara Swamiji said. Ahankara is what enlivens first with this reflected consciousness. And this ahankara, when it identifies with body, then body gets enlivened. Otherwise, body is inert. In the same way, this entire creation is enlivened by that same Chaitanya. First, it borrows existence. Then within that apparent existence, whatever things are happening, all of that is supported by this Chaitanya. Okay. That was this line, Sarvanara Abhimanitvat Vaishvaanara and Vividam Rajamanatvat Virat. It appears in so many ways, takes several different forms. That is why it is called as Virat. If you try to find the uniqueness in creation, there is no end. Everything will have so many nuances, so many details, meaning in so many ways that same Chaitanya is appearing. That is why it is called as Virat. Now Samashti Upadhi, the conditioning part, that is 112th. Asya esha samashtihi, stula shariram, anna vikaratvat, annamaya koshah, stula bhogayatanatvacha, stula shariram, jagrat iti cha vyapadishyate, asya esha samashtihi. This samashti stula sharira, it is called as annamaya kosha. Not only Vyeshti, samashti stula sharira is also called as annamaya kosha. Why? Because it is modification of annam. Anna vikaritvat. Hetu is given, reason is given. It is called as annamaya kosha because it is a modification of annam. And what is the type of experience which takes place in waking state? This is stula bhogayatanatvacha. Body becomes, or stula sharira becomes the counter, it becomes the ayatanam for stula bhoga. Stula bhoga means spashta bhoga. Spashta means very clear. In dream state, it was pravivikta bhoga. Right? Pravivikta bhuk. That was the word used. Pravivikta bhuk means it is aspashta. It is unclear. In Karanavastha, it was Ananda bhuk. Ananda was experienced, but over here it is not Ananda bhuk, not Pravivikta bhuk, but Stula bhuk. Stula bhuk means spashta bhogas are there. Whether it will give sukham or dukkham, it is based on our karma. Same object, same stula vishaya can give sukham to one person and it can give dukkham, to another person. Best example is temperature. In a room, you keep one temperature, one person is so happy, 70 you keep. He, is very happy with that. Other person will be shivering, with that they'll try to increase it or pull a blanket and sleep. Stula bhuk it is. That is sthula. Temperature is sthula, not sukshma. This idea we should remove from our mind that only what is seen by the eyes is sthula. Temperature bhoga is happening through skin, sparshendriya. So it is stula bhoga. Means very spashta it is. That, ayatanam, it is the counter for that. Stula shariram jagrat iti cha vyapadishyate. Because stula sharira is recognized in jagrat, it also gets the name of jagrat. But you should remember, verse number 112 is speaking about Samashti, not Vyeshti. Vyeshti will come later. You see how it starts? Asya esha samashtihi stula shariram annamaya koshaha stula shariram jagrat iti cha vyapadishyate. It is getting all these names. The upadhi is getting these names. Verse number 111 was upahita chaitanya, conditioned consciousness. Verse number 112 is upadhi, conditioning. Okay? All of you are with me, or was it too heavy? This was okay, right? Okay. Now Vyeshti, Upahita Chaitanya will come. That we will see in the next session. These are also very nice pointers. In particular, the portion that will come of sense organs. Why a particular sense organ has specific presiding deity. It's very nice to do mananam over there. We'll understand our personality better. I have not forgotten the question that we had given last time. We'll come to that after Purnamada. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. What was the question? Panchikaranam takes place. Panchikaranam takes place with the 5 elements. Half is its own element, and 1/8 portion comes from other 4 elements. This happened for space, air, fire, water, and earth. So earth element also has half of its own element, and 1/8 element coming from the other 4 elements: space, air, fire, and water. But earth, which is Panchikruta, is able to show the guna, the qualities of previous 4 elements. It means if you take some fruit, for example, you can hear that fruit. Shabda guna is there. That fruit is earth, Prithvi it is. That example. So that fruit has Shabda guna. You can touch the fruit. It has Sparsha guna. Then you can taste it. Rasa guna is there. And you can smell it also. Gandha guna is there. Rupa, of course. Rupa guna is there from Agni Tattva. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. All 5 of them are there for that fruit. But if you take a previous element, if you take water, for example, water doesn't have Gandha guna. Earth element guna is not there in water. If you take fire, for example, fire doesn't have taste, fire doesn't have Gandha. Air doesn't have Rupa, air doesn't have taste, Rasa, air doesn't have Gandha. Space doesn't have other 4. So why this, pattern if Panchikaranam has happened for all 5 gunas? Space is the cause of other elements, and the gunas of cause will express in the effect. But gunas of the effect cannot be in the cause. If we think in terms of motion, speed is the first derivative. Acceleration is the second derivative. Acceleration will have speed, but speed will not have acceleration. The higher derivative effects such as earth will not have lower derivatives, cause like space. Very good, very good. That is the main point. I'll summarize it later. Effect cannot have property of the cause. Space actually pervades rest of the elements. The subtler pervades the grosser. If we are illumined by reflected consciousness, okay, the question will come back. Gunas are from apanchikruta, panchamahabhutas, and not from grossified elements. Effects will inherit guna of cause, such as Vayu will have guna of Akasha as well. Each element is derived from the prior subtle element. Air comes from space, fire comes from air, etc. As part of this derivation, it inherits the trait of previous elements and thus accumulates. Subtlest and all of this space is the substratum of other elements. How this inheritance is, just like child inherits traits from parents. Very good. All drishtantas. The main thing over here is when karya merges in karana, when karya, effect, merges into cause, it loses its individuality. So when Panchikaranam happened, for space, the 1/8 part of air, fire, water, earth came and merged over here. But space is the great grandfather of all other 4 elements. Right? Grandfather and great grandfather. Is first space came, then air, fire, water, earth. So when 1/8 portion of air is merging back into space, karyam, which is air, is merging into karanam. It is just like pot merging into clay. Effect merging into cause, it cannot affect the cause. It loses its individuality when it merges into its cause. Okay, same with other 4 elements. Whenever they merge into their cause, they lose their individuality. When karya merges into karanam, it doesn't remain separate. That is why gunas don't express in karyam. Okay. All right. I see there was one question here. If the seed of every avatar is Virat Purusha, then what about Maya or Srishti's role in this world? Maya's role is always there. How can Nirguna Brahma become Saguna? Right? Avatara means all gunas are taken. How did Nirguna become Saguna? That part is Maya's role. Jehi Srishti Upai Trivida Banai Sanga Sahayana Duja. Bhagwan alone created this entire world without any other help. It's a very interesting line. This is even without other help means what? Even without Maya Shakti. This is Maya is one with Bhagwan only. So he doesn't have to take help from some other entity. Means no another nimitta karanam is needed. No upadana karanam is needed separately. No nimitta karanam is needed separately. All of that is inherently there. That is how we should look at it. If we are illumined by reflected consciousness and not consciousness itself, since reflection is not the same as real, how can we understand Aham Brahmasmi? Whenever we start studying Vedanta, the word I or we should not be looked at from body standpoint and then trying to find consciousness. We are illumined by consciousness means what? Where am I sitting right now? In the illumined. Vedanta wants to say you are illuminator. So as consciousness, I am illumining this body and I am illumining the world outside. But directly I cannot illumine the world outside. So that illumination happens through reflected consciousness. And the statement that reflection is not the same as real, that is true. Means the qualities of reflection will not be same as original. But there what we should understand is, wherever there is reflection, original has to be there. Original has to be right there. So if I am finding reflected consciousness, then Shuddha Chaitanya also is right there. But just don't look at it as sun in the sky and getting reflected in water below. There is no gap in space. Right? Reflection is happening right there. Okay. All right. Good. Hari Om. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om. We will have our Shankar Jayanti program this Friday. Looking forward to seeing all of you in person. We are students of Advaita Vedanta, so we should seek Bhagavan Shankaracharya's blessings, and we'll have several events, several components of the program lined up for Friday evening.